Okay, guys, so if The Walking Dead actually just did what I think they just did, then I have no idea how much worse the season finale is gonna be. Hey guys, it's Kevin, and this is my review for The Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 15, East, and what an episode. I mean, this episode was crazy. It really was. We're not even on the finale yet, and the finale's next week, and you can definitely tell the finale's next week, because this episode was really crazy. I mean, this really did feel like the beginning of the finale, and I understand why it has to be 90 minutes in this week, I understand that, but this really did feel like the beginning of what's to come, and it really was crazy, and there was a lot of great scenes this episode. Definitely really love this episode. I still think the strongest episode of the season for me personally, I think would probably be either Here's Not Here, the Morgan centric episode that we got in the very beginning of this season, like the 4th episode, or the episode where Carol and Maggie were captured. I still think that's strongest episode, but this comes very, very close. And next week's finale is going to be amazing. I know that for a fact. Let's just get into this episode. There's a lot to talk about, as usual. But really, a lot to talk about, especially the ending. I know you guys want me to get to that, because I really do want to talk about that. So we start with the car, sits in the middle of the road. It's broken down with flat tires. Blood drips, and Carol calls to a man. She says, "I see you, come slowly." He elects not to, and a gunshot is heard, and we don't know what happens. We see this scene later, but we don't know what happens here. We don't know who this man is and why Carol's after him and everything, but it's a good setup, because you have to be worried for Carol. I mean, she left voluntarily. She wasn't told to leave. She just decided to. This wasn't really, it wasn't just, randomly like, oh, I want to leave now, but she left because she just felt that it wasn't her place to be there anymore, and she didn't really feel like she could be there anymore, and I'm honestly really worried for Carol. But after this, in this episode, I don't think I have as many worries, because we know how strong of a character Carol is, and that's the thing. So we see Carol's notes that's on a table as she stitches up a jacket. She's preparing to leave Alexandra by packing food and gear into a bag. Tobin calls out first. She puts the bag under the bed, tells him she's upstairs. He tells her how quick it is at the infirmary now that Denise is gone, and Carol can't focus on what he's saying. She says she's most concerned about Tara, but Tobin assures her that everything's going to be fine. He thinks that they're going to be okay, that they really know what they're doing, and he doesn't really realize how bad the situation is. Now, I was wondering when this exactly was taking place, but then when we saw Carol slip out the door without Tobin noticing, then I knew what was going on. This was basically the last night that Carol saw Tobin. This was when she decided to leave, because we never actually saw Carol leave. We just knew by the notes she left, and here, basically, we saw how she left. We saw that her and Tobin, they just weren't working anymore. She couldn't focus on him anymore, and she just needed to get away, and it's crazy the way that all turned out, but it goes with Carol's character. Like I said, she's very affected by what's happened, and the fact that she isn't telling anyone about what happened with that attack on her and Maggie, the fact that no one's noticing, and I'm sure that there definitely are people noticing, but she's not telling anyone, and that definitely is not the best thing to do, obviously. So I like the way we saw that. I like that we saw how Carol left, because it was something we definitely needed to see. And then we get this really great montage. The next day, Rosita and Sasha stand guards at the walls. Carl finds a gun in the armory with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire carved in its handle. Kind of like last week where we saw that montage of like what everyone does. It's kind of like what it is here. Maggie and Glenn shower together. They wash each other's backs and hair, and Glenn notices something on Maggie's back, and it's probably from the attack. He notices that she's hurt. She doesn't really say anything about it, but I did notice that. I like this scene though. Again, I like seeing Maggie and Glenn together, but I have to fear the worst for them. The fact that they're happy right now, and the fact that they're together, I mean, you have to fear the worst. Anytime someone's happy on this show, they die, and I really feel that one of them are gonna die. I know Glenn is supposed to die because he dies in the comics, but Maggie, I think, is the one they're gonna kill, because I just feel like they want to be unpredictable. I feel like killing Glenn, it just be like, alright, we saw that coming, we knew that was gonna happen. Killing off Maggie would be a lot more shocking, and I feel would be a lot more interesting if they actually did that. Now, do I want Maggie to die? No. Do I want Glenn to die? No. Do I want anyone to die? No, not really. I don't really want anyone to die. Maybe Father Gabriel, I don't know, maybe some people, could die, but, I want to see someone die, obviously, because, it'd be really interesting if they did, and we've been promised that big death for a while, and we still have yet to get it, really. But I do think that someone big is going to die next week, definitely, and this episode really shows that. So, basically, Daryl gets on his bike with Denise's keychain in his hand, and it's just showing that he's remembering Denise and keeping her memory. It's a good scene, Daryl and Denise were never close, but they just got closer because of what happened in those moments before she died. I think she had an impact on him with her words and everything, and I like the way that scene was done. Good stuff there. Sasha heads down the ladder where she meets Abraham, who heads up the ladder with a smile and a cigar. Rosita looks on bitterly because obviously she's not happy about Sasha and Abraham. Obviously, Abraham left her, and she's really upset about that. And that's also something I fear. We don't have room for a love triangle, so I feel like one of them, they're going to die as well possibly next week, and I really do think that's going to happen. Next week, I'm calling it, there's going to be at least 2 major deaths. There's not just going to be one, there's going to be 2. I mean, you guys know Negan. We saw in the promo, Negan said, I don't, negotiate things, so Negan's probably going to take out a bunch of them, probably some people we don't really care about and some minor characters, but he's also going to take out some major ones, and I could definitely see that happening next week. So Rick and Michonne wake up in bed together. Michonne bites into an apple before handing it to Rick, who also takes a bite. Rick declares that it's good. They reflect on how the hilltop came through because it's really working out well for them. And Rick tells Michonne that Judith isn't even up yet, starts to make some moves on her, but Michonne tells him Maggie has her on a schedule, and she's not pissing off a pregnant lady. It was a funny line. I definitely enjoyed that. Michonne and Maggie are worried about an attack, though, because everything's good now, and it seems like whenever something's good, an attack happens, and they're really worried that something bad's gonna happen. But Rick's confident that when anyone comes for them, he's gonna end it, that he's strong enough, he's able to take them down, and that, he was able to kill a bunch of saviors, and he thinks he'll be able to do that. The problem is, he doesn't realize how powerful I think Negan's really going to be, because I really think that Negan's going to have all this power over him. Now, again, I don't read the comics. I know some things about the comics, but I don't read the comics, so I don't know too much about the psyche of Negan, but the way we've been building him up and the way that I've been hearing, Negan is definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I think he's going to be the first person that Rick might not be able to fight, honestly. So he says that the world is theirs. They claim that they're not going to lose anything inside the walls ever again, and they're really confident about that. And the thing is, again, when characters feel confident, they end up dying, and I really think that this is about to be a broken society. Even though Rick thinks that they're on a good path, even though he thinks things are going well for them, this is not going to last for long. I know this show, I know that happens, I've watched it for 3 years now, and I know whenever someone says, we're on a good path, something bad happens, and that's exactly what happens in this episode. I mean, things are just going to get worse. That's how it is. So in the streets, Maggie, Glenn, and Michonne go through the gun supply. Daryl abruptly heads out of the safe zone without telling anyone where he's going. I will say, back to the Rick thing, though, I do like that he's more confident. I like that he's not so dwelling on something. I like that he's not as worried. He really doesn't have much fear. He thinks he'll be able to take them on, and I like seeing that. It shows that Rick is ready to fight, which, doesn't surprise me. Rick's always been ready to fight, but in this case, things are going really well, but like I said, I think Rick is in for a very rude awakening once he comes face to face with Negan. He has no idea what's going to happen, and that's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. So, in the streets, Maggie, Glenn, and Michonne go through the gun supply. Daryl abruptly heads out of the safe zone without telling anyone where he's going, which is very interesting. And I guess he could kind of do that, but he probably should have checked with Rick first. Probably just a good thing to do. But the fact that he just left, I mean, it's very interesting that he did that. Glenn and Michonne, but, I think Daryl's always kind of been sort of a rule breaker, so I'm not surprised, just leave without telling anyone. I mean, that's kind of a problem, especially when you know that there are threats out there. It probably was a good thing to at least tell someone, hey, I'm leaving. He didn't do that, though. So Glenn and Michonne hop in a van. Abraham tries to join, but Rosita cuts him off, tags along with them, claiming that she knows where he's going. And we don't know if she does or if she's just there because she wants to talk to him, but, he thinks that she's telling the truth. So Tobin then gives Rick the note from Carol, and of course, Rick did not know that Carol left, and Rick quickly heads for the gate, wants more information, because before, he's dealt with Carol leaving before, but that was when he kicked her out. Like, he said, I can't have you around anymore, you need to leave. And remember, Carol said that she feels that everyone would just be better off without her, that she should have left when Rick told her to leave. And that's something I loved about last week's episode, is that I think Carol's really thinking that they don't need her, which in many ways she doesn't really belong in this society anymore. I mean, she's not who she's saying she is. She's not able to not fight, and she just can't do it anymore. And Sasha, we see, was on the gates from 6 to 12 and didn't hear or see anything. And Abraham reveals that Daryl left and the others left the safe zone. And they're realizing that things might not be as organized as they think it is. Tobin realizes a car outside is missing. Morgan walks away, tells Rick he's gonna find her, and Rick joins him. So I like that they kind of go on this rescue mission together. I like the way that that was done. And especially since they haven't had a ton of interaction in a while, I like that we had some more interaction here. So many things the scene's done a good job with is have some characters that haven't as much interaction and have them interact interact a bit more. Like, for example, Carol and Maggie, like that, we hadn't seen much interaction from them, or things like, Rick and Michonne, we hadn't seen as much, well, we've seen them interact before, but just focus more on those core relationships. I thought they did a good job with this season, definitely, if I had to say anything. Because we're coming to an end, I definitely will say that. So Carol drives a car with pipes sticking out of it, down and empty, and she comes upon a pickup truck full of armed men who shoot at her. The car is stopped, the man evaluate her, and she holds a rosary in her hands as the men tell her to put her hands up. They tell her to step out of the car. She does, tells them that she only has a car and a knife, and of course we know that she is ready to just take them all out. We know that Carol could do that, and the man says she has information. She says her name is Nancy from Montclair, and she bounces around a lot. The man is skeptical, and he claims that she's from Alexandria, and her car looks like the one outside the gates. And obviously, she has to protect herself, because if they know she's from Alexandria, they're going to try to kill her, because they're obviously saviors, and the saviors are going through, after literally anyone who is in Alexandria, obviously, because of what happened and things like that. So, she knows the situation they're in. So Carol starts panting a bit, tells them that no one is to get hurt. They're going to grab her, but Carol unloads a machine gun on them. Only the driver's left. He pursues her with a pistol. Carol hides behind the car, uses one of the spears to kill him through the window, which that was just crazy the way that was done. She takes his gun, tells the man she can see him and orders him to come out. He draws a knife, lunges to attack her. Carol fires her gun as blood drips from the car, and now we know what that whole first scene was about, that Carol is killing. She has to basically kill to survive, and this is her life now. This is what she has to understand, that this is her life. She's now out on her own, and if she wants to live, she's going to have to kill, and I think she understands that. But the thing is, no one is there to protect her, no one is there to help her, and I don't think Carol really needs it necessarily, but I think she should at least have some sort of help. I mean, she's kind of all alone out there, maybe have some backup, every now and again. It might just be a safe thing to do, but, I'm not going to tell you what to do, Carol, but it might just be the best thing to do if you had some backup, which she doesn't, but, go figure, whatever. I like that Carol was at least able to take out these guys, but something I find interesting is that we have yet to see a walker. We didn't see any walkers in this episode. We haven't seen a lot of walkers in a while, and I think it's starting to show that men are more, there are more humans that are more savage and evil than the walkers are. The walkers are easy to take down at this point, but the saviors are harder because they're actual humans, and they are like walkers in the sense that they'll kill whenever they see someone, but, they're not, walkers, obviously. So I think that's very interesting the way they've shown that. And The Walking Dead, I mean, a lot of people have said The Walking Dead doesn't necessarily mean walkers. It could also mean humans, and that's kind of what the saviors are. And very much they are The Walking Dead. Because remember, they've given up on society. They don't want to believe in anything anymore. They don't have emotions. They just kill. That's really all they do. They kill, they take people out they need to kill, and that they make deals, and that's it. So Maggie finds Enid in the food pantry. She's here to grab some food before her shift, but Enid insists on taking Maggie's shift for a few hours, which I thought was interesting. I'm worried about Enid. Enid's not a main character, and I'm worried about that, because whenever someone's not a main character and they focus on them, they usually die, and I think Enid's probably gonna either die or something's gonna happen to her next week, definitely, especially since something's happened to Carl. I do think something's gonna happen to Enid. So Morgan and Rick drive around searching for Carol. Morgan rules that since the compound was to the west, Carol probably went east. That's the way to go. And Rick says that Morgan doesn't know Carol, but Morgan says he's doing this because there is not right, only the wrong that pulls you down. And I was thinking that Morgan would confess to Rick what Carol did, and that she was the one, what Morgan did and everything, that he let that one, JSS, that one guy live. I can't remember what his name was. Oh, the wild walkers, whatever they were called. Remember the W walkers, the W walkers, those things. The W's, I can't remember what they're called, but remember he let that one guy live. I was wondering if he was going to tell Rick about that, but Rick claims Ron haven't pulled him down, and that's the thing. Rick has to do some Rons to survive, and that's kind of what I think Morgan's understanding, and Morgan tells Rick it will, though, eventually, because he knows him, that, things always go wrong for him. Rick always thinks he's on a high, and then he ends up going way down, and things get really bad for him, and that's kind of how Rick always has been, and right now he's really confident, but how's he going to be when things start to go wrong? Now, Rick doesn't think things are going to go wrong, but he really needs to think realistically, and he's not, and I like that Morgan is trying to get him to think realistically, because really he does. I mean, he thinks things are going to go right, but does he really know? No, he doesn't know that. He just wants to think things are going to go right, because he doesn't want to think of, what could happen. So the injured savior comes out out of the woods, follows Rick and Morgan after finding Carol's rosary on the ground. Rosita, Michonne, and Glenn arrive at the train tracks where Denise died. Glenn's trying to get information about what happened from her, but Rosita's reluctant to give it to him, and Glenn wants to pursue Daryl because he believes he's in danger, which is interesting, and obviously Daryl is kind of in danger because he just left voluntarily. So later, when it's more sunny, Daryl follows tracks through the woods with his crossbow in hand. He hears something and fires an arrow, which hits a tree right next to Rosita. He reveals that he thinks Denise's death is his fault, and that's why he's left, that he feels it's his fault, and I like that they gave a reason, because I was thinking, oh, Daryl's just gonna leave by himself, but no, they gave an actual reason here, and he felt that Denise, was his fault, and that Denise is gone, so he isn't doing this for her, and he's doing it for himself. And Michonne promises that they'll get everything square, but Daryl insists that he can't come back. And Rosita follows as he continues his tracking. Glenn and Michonne turn back, and I really did feel bad for Daryl. I mean, you can see that even though he didn't really have that much of a relationship with Denise, she really affected him. I mean, she wanted to get involved. She wanted to fix things. And in that moment, he tried to save her, but it was just too late. And I think Daryl wishes that he would have maybe done some more things. And in many ways, it kind of is his fault because of that whole thing with Dwight, that guy that, remember, he very badly hurt and everything. So I think that's kind of what it is, that Daryl hurt Dwight, and he didn't think Dwight would ever come back up in his life again, but Dwight did. And I think that's really what it's all about, that Daryl feels that that one thing that happened with Dwight caused everything to go wrong, and that's why Denise was killed. And remember, it was supposed to be Daryl, but Denise was the one that was killed, and he was aiming for Daryl. So I think that's kind of why Daryl feels kind of not insignificant, but kind of just not like he should be there. He feels like Denise should be alive and he should be dead, and that's kind of how the situation should be, which is very interesting, and I like the way that's playing out. It's very sad, but it's a good arc for Daryl. I like the way that's going, and I like these realizing his mistakes. So Glenn and Michonne walk through the woods, discuss the saviors. Glenn claims that he and Daryl got stuck with each other, and he thought that they had figured everything out. He rules the world is not what they thought it was, and suddenly they're surrounded by all these men with guns. Literally, these men are just like about to shoot at them. It's crazy. And one of them is Dwight, who pops out and says hi, which I thought was a very interesting line, the way he's just like, hi. He just like, it's like, oh, it's me again. Very interesting the way that was done. But crazy scene, because I was like, one of them are about to get shot. Someone is about to get shot here, but then they went to commercial. I was like, no, why'd you go to commercial? Because literally it seemed like one of them was about to die. Nobody ended up dying in that scene, but someone definitely might have died at the end of this episode. We'll get into that. But we then see Rick and Morgan continue through a field. They find blood in the grass. Rick tells Morgan he's searching for Carol, not because she's his friend, but because she's family. And in many ways, they are becoming a family. They're no longer friends. He's stuck by Carol. She's stuck by him. And that's kind of what family does. They always look out for each other. And that's kind of what Carol's done. He's looked out for her. And that's kind of how they're family. And I like how they've shown that they really are becoming this family. And Morgan brings up the time that Rick sent Carol away for killing 2 people at the prison. And Rick says that if it happened today, he would thank her if he didn't just kill them himself. He realizes that back then he didn't realize that he had to kill as much as he did, but now he understands that he needs to kill to survive, and Carol did the same thing, and now he would have thanked her for doing that, which I think is interesting. And Morgan says that in any case, he didn't kill Carol for what she did. She came back and she saved all of them, concluding that people can come back, Rick, and he needs to understand that people can come back, people can turn things around, and she might just come back. And the two of them find this female walker roaming in a field. They put her down. It's not Carol, but she's only been dead for less than a day, which is interesting. I'm thinking it's Denise. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that it's Denise. That's who they had to put down because, she's been dead for a day, and they find a man who's putting down walkers. Rick tries to shoot the man, but Morgan pushes him so he misses, and together they take out the impending zombie threat. They argue over the possibilities of who the man could be because they don't know who he is, and Rick repeats himself from weeks ago saying, I don't take chances anymore, which Rick has said before, but he says it again because it's true. He doesn't take chances. He only trusts when he needs to. When he only makes deals when he thinks it's a good idea. And if he doesn't think it's a good idea, he just kills them. And especially if they don't answer his 3 questions. I mean, if they say they've killed a walker and killed people, how many walkers you've killed, how many people you've killed, things like that. I mean, it really tests like how Rick feels about you, which is very interesting. It's kind of a survival of the fittest sort of thing. The weak take out the strong. It's kind of like what's going on with Rick. Like, he's the strong ones are the killing ones, and the weak ones are kind of like Denise and people from Alexandria, who are willing to fight, but they haven't killed as much as Rick, and in this world, that's just kind of how it is, which is interesting. So I like the way that that was done, definitely really good, and it shows that Rick still is willing to kill, which I'm glad that we saw, because, you know, for a few episodes, it seems like Rick has kind of made these deals and everything, but no, he still does want to kill, obviously. He doesn't want to kill, but he understands that you need to kill in this world. So Morgan opens up to Rick about finding the wolf, and I'm happy that he told Rick this, because, you know, this is a conversation they need to have. He knew it was going to come up, and he tells Rick about their first encounter, that the next encounter was Alexandria, and he reveals he put him in a cell and fought with Carol over it during the attack. Ultimately, the man saved Denise's life, and Denise saved Carl, and he tells Rick it's all a circle, everything gets a return. Rick is at a loss of words. He doesn't really know what to say here, because in many ways he understands, I think, why he kept this wolf alive. At the same time, I think he's just like, why didn't you just kill him? And basically, Morgan tells Rick to go back to Alexandria and promises to find Carol somehow. Morgan tells Rick that if he doesn't come back, don't come looking. And it's a good moment, because I feel like Morgan's kind of punishing himself for what he did. Like, he's kind of like, you know what, I did wrong. I should be the one to look for. You've done right. You're a hero. Just leave. And the two end with Rick giving Morgan a pistol and telling him that Michonne did steal his protein bar. Kind of a fun scene there, but basically, Morgan's gonna look for Carol. I fear the worst for him, even though he's not killing and it's worked out for him now. What's gonna happen when he comes face to face with Negan? Because that's gotta happen at some point. We know most of them are gonna come face to face with Negan, and I feel like Morgan definitely is gonna come face to face with someone, and I'm very worried about what's gonna happen there, honestly. I really think that Morgan's in danger, honestly, I really do. So Rick arrives home back at Alexandria. He asks Abraham if Michonne is back, but she's not back yet. Abraham asks Rick if he's afraid to go back to it with somebody close, and Rick admits that he is, and Abraham does too, and Abraham tells Rick that it makes him that much more ready to tear the world with a brand new asshole, and he assures Rick any second now, which is a very interesting scene. They're kind of in the same situation. They both have new loves, and they don't really know if they're going to last, and if they really want to commit to them, but they need to. You know, it's the kind of the thing that's keeping them sane, keeping them happy, and that's kind of what's going on with Rick and Michonne, that Rick needs someone like Michonne. Michonne can keep him sane, Michonne can keep him grounded, and he needs someone like that, and I like the way this was done. It showed why Rick does need Michonne, and really good stuff there. So Enid knocks on Maggie's door. Maggie tells Enid that she needs more help, and Enid cuts Maggie's hair, which this makes sense why that picture is released of Lauren Cohen. If you remember, Lauren Cohen said, oh, I'm not dead, but I did cut my hair, and now we know why. Maggie says it is because she has to keep going, and she doesn't want anything to get in her way, and Maggie feels some sharp pains in her stomach and falls to the floor. Clearly, it's from the attack, which she isn't telling anyone about, but you can tell that she's trying to move on from it. Carol has as well, but Carol definitely is more scarred by it and definitely is more affected. While I think Maggie is kind of affected by it, but definitely not as much as Carol. Like, she definitely is doing a good job of hiding it. She's not really suspecting anything, and I like the way that that was done. Definitely, I really enjoyed that scene. You know, really good stuff, and definitely with Maggie, I don't know what's going to happen to her, but I'm thinking that she's going to go into labor, because obviously there's sharp pains in her stomach. She's going to go into labor, definitely. I think she's going to have that baby in the finale, which will end up really bad for her, especially if Negan's on the way in that scene. That will be terrible if that happened, but I do think that's what's going to happen, that Negan's going to come, you know, she's going to come face to face with Negan, she's going to have that baby, and it's going to end up terribly for her, honestly. I don't see things going well there. So Glenn and Michonne are held hostage in the woods. Daryl and Rosita approach, but Dwight and another man catch them from behind. Dwight says, hi, Daryl, before shooting him, and Daryl's blood splatters onto the camera. Cut to black, Dwight says, you'll be alright, and that's how the episode ends. So, they didn't just kill off Daryl, right? Like, there's no way that Daryl is dead. I mean, if they actually killed off Daryl, I really give them balls, because one, so many people said that they'll stop watching the show. Now, I don't think as much, but I understand why Dwight killed Daryl, obviously. He wanted to kill Daryl in the first place. That made sense to me. It didn't feel out of place, and it didn't feel like it was just for shock value. It felt like it made sense. But is Daryl actually dead? That's my thing. We didn't see Daryl die, and just like Glenn, everyone says this, if we don't see them dead, they're not actually dead. Well, there is Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. We didn't actually see him die, so, I mean, well, actually, we did see him die. There is that. And Stannis in Game of Thrones as well is dead. But I'm just talking about The Walking Dead, you know, not on other shows, but on The Walking Dead, if we don't see them die, they might not be dead. We know that. And, Definitely very interesting, the way that that's all being handled. But there's no way that Daryl's dead. I'm saying that right now. Daryl is definitely not dead. There could be, something more something more going on there. Definitely, I don't know if Daryl's faking it or. And I'll say this: if they pull a Glenn with Daryl, make us think he's dead and then he's not dead, I'm gonna be very pissed because I don't think it was necessarily bad what they did with Glenn. Like, I'm happy they kept him alive in the end, but I do think it was really dumb. They could have killed him off. They could have done more stuff there, and they didn't. They left him. They left him alive, and I thought it was kind of stupid the way they did that. But I am interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Let's talk about Negan, though, because obviously Morgan's now on the road. He's searching for Carol. Everyone's back at Alexandria, and everything's bad. Everything's going to go to shit. I'm going to say it right now. Everything's going to go to shit. I think Morgan is in danger of dying. I think while Carol is good on the road right now, she's going to kill. Morgan's going to realize next week that he's going to need to kill. I mean, I don't think the whole not killing is a good strategy anymore, especially with someone like Negan. Morgan's going to have to kill. I know he doesn't want to kill, but he's going to have to, and this whole Akaiju thing is just not going to work for him anymore, even though he wants it to. It's just not going to work for anymore, I think. It's a good idea. It's been a good strategy for him, but right now, it's just not going to work anymore because of the situation they're in. Maggie, I think, is going into labor. I think Maggie's going to have her baby next week. I'm very worried about that. I don't want her to have the baby next week because I think Negan's going to end up killing her and the baby because that'd be terrible, but we know that Negan is a terrible person and he does horrible, horrific things. I literally hear he, beats people with a bat, he does horrible things, and the promo of him as well, Jeffrey D. Morgan is going to kill it. He looked like a badass. I can't wait to see what he brings to the show. But I'm also terrified because, like I said, if Daryl is dead, that is only in this episode. And I'm pretty sure we are headed for 2 more kills next week. I don't know who and I don't know where, but there are definitely going to be kills next week. People are going to die. It's a 90-minute finale, and they're not going to disappoint us again. I know people were disappointed last year. I wasn't upset that people died last year, but come on. You have Negan on the show. You need to kill people. It's that simple. If someone does not die next week, I will be upset because they introduced Negan. They set up things really well. I think someone is going to die next week, and I think it's going to be, someone that is major. I don't think it's going to be someone like a Denise or someone like that. I think it's going to be someone major. Do I think there'll be some, minor players that will die as well? Oh, yeah, but the major ones, I do think some of them are going to die. Obviously, Rick's not going to die. Michonne's not going to die. Those 2, I think, are going to live. Carl's going to live as well. You need to keep those 3 on because you need to keep that family going, and Rick can't afford to lose another woman in his life. He just can't. I do think Abraham's in danger as well because of the whole thing going on with Sasha and Rosita. We just can't afford a love triangle right now. The show is too crazy. There's too much going on, and we just can't afford that right now, and I think they need to end that storyline and end up killing one of them because that's just the way it has to go, which I understand that. I'm not upset about that if they do that because, like I said, they just can't afford having this love triangle right now. There's too much else going on. And it's not that I don't care. I do care very much. I understand why Rosie upset. Abraham just left. It's a good storyline, definitely. I'm just saying, they can't really do that right now. They need to kill one of them because, they can't have this love triangle going on. There needs to be another way to move forward, and I can't wait to see what happens there. But overall, guys, I'm glad you guys saw this episode. I am so pumped for next week's finale. This episode made me so excited for next week's finale, but I'm also, like I said, really terrified. I'm glad you guys saw this episode, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Vinyl, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.